Hello and welcome to the channel. This is Steel City Knives. Right, I have never deliberated over a video more in my life. I've been doing this video for days upon days upon days. So hopefully this will be the final take. So why have I been deliberating so much now? I've been entrusted by Stephen Cocker. He sent me some photos of an amazing event that took place. So it was a closed door event. It was mainly the company, friends and family, press, things like that that went to it. So quite an official event. And what was the event about? Well, one was Kelham Island honouring Stan Shaw. And they created this bust. A brilliant artist called Chris Denham created a bust, which is essentially a sculpture of somebody's head and shoulders usually, but it's Stan Shaw's head. And then there's one also in Cutler's Hall. I'm going to be talking about that in part 2 because there's so much to go through on this video, and I've been very fortunate to get a couple of Stan Shaw knives in the collection, so I'm going to do a whole special on Stan Shaw and we'll talk about that and show the photos. But this is more about the move that Durham Duplex are taking over the lease for a working cutlery workshop in Kelham Island Museum. But me being a knife geek and a lover of cutlery, I didn't want to leave it there. So this isn't the first time that Kelham Island's done this. They've done it several times before with a lot of Sheffield craftspeople, and had a lot of success with it. So we're going to talk a bit about that. Also, I want to just brush on exhibition knives as well, because there's some fantastic pieces at Kelham Island Museum. Now, unfortunately, it was broken into in 2023 and they lost 12 artifacts. So we're going to talk a bit about that. So we're going to talk about Durham Duplex's move into Kelham Island Museum. We're going to talk about the success stories and some of the brilliant Sheffield craftspeople that have done this in the past. We're going to talk about exhibition knives. So, a lot to go through. Let's get on with the video. So I've previously done a video on Kelham Island Museum, and it's a walk around video essentially. It's just showing you some now if you're in the UK, you've got to see it. It's a must. If you're a knife lover, you've got to get yourself to Kelham Island Museum. It's even so, especially so now, I would say, now that we've got Stephen Cocker and his team actually producing knives in the place, it's a definite must. And then I've done a video on the takeover of Durham Duplex and the Eggington group. So I went into detail because at the time when it was going on, a lot of people was worried and there was a lot of speculation. I just wanted to put some clarity out there. And again, Stephen gave me a lot of information for that. So the Eggington group, and this sort of picture symbolises, owned a lot of the most historic brands in Sheffield, and they protected them when there was a really rough time in Sheffield's history and a lot of them were going bankrupt. The Eggington group essentially saved them, so they did a brilliant job and they protected them and made them successful throughout the years. And now they're passing the reins over to Durham Duplex. And in that video I'll go into who's, because obviously there's an ex-master cutler. It's sort of like the director of Durham Duplex. So it's a fantastic company that's taken them over. But a lot of responsibility on their shoulders. I personally love George Walsdenheimer and Joseph Rogers. They're two brands that I, as you can see here, what I've done here, I've got Stan Shaw, we've got Stephen Cocker, we've got some Joseph Rogers down here, we've got George Walsdenheimer, this is a William Rogers, Ibison's, so a couple of Joseph Rogers up the top there. So they're brands that I absolutely love. I have a lot of their old catalogues, a lot of books dedicated to sort of George Walsdenheimer and things like that. So massive fan of these brands, really looking forward to, really positive about the future, and I can't wait to see them in Kelham Island Museum. So what's it going to look like? It's going to be a knife lover's dream. So if there wasn't enough reasons to go and visit Kelham Island Museum, there is even more so now, because what you have at Kelham Island Museum, in one part of it is a cobbled street, and they've tried to reenact Sheffield days gone by sort of thing, and made it look like that shop fronts and things like that. And on that cobbled street is a working workshop that has been residents of that workshop are some fantastic cutlers before, but now it's Durham Duplex. So you're going to have Stephen Cocker and his team there, And here's one of the pictures here. So you've got the new master cutler, which is Philip Rodrigo. Edward Turner on one of the pictures, who is the owner of Durham Duplex, I believe. He was also a master cutler. He's given a speech here. And you've got sort of Stephen Cocker's team. So there's been a lot of stories, and I'm going to link a lot of things in this video below if you want to go and have a look. So the BBC did a brilliant story on Stephen Cocker and his wife, because his wife is actually a cutler. So they're a husband and wife team, which was done a lot historically in the past, but they're probably the last husband and wife team working shoulder to shoulder now. So you'll see them both making knives together, which is fantastic. One thing I did take from that picture is there's a young lad there. I've seen him on one of the Eggington videos on YouTube of them in the workshop. So that's another generation coming through the ranks. And it's always a really positive thing to see these apprentice and trainees coming through. So I don't know exactly where he is. I've not sort of, some people don't want their identity to be known on, but it's just, I've seen younger people with Stephen and his team. So it's brilliant to see that side of it. So as you walk down that cobbled street, you can look into these windows and you'll see them working away. So fantastic. So I cannot wait to go visit the place. So I spoke before as well. The Eggington Group website's still up. You can still get the knives there on the website. But there was another website owned by Durham Duplex called Sheffield Collectables. And it's a fantastic website, and it's actually up and running now. And there's a lot of information about the brands on there. When you drill down to the shop part of it, it does say contact Kelham Island Museum. So maybe that's something in development. I didn't actually ask Stephen about that. But a fantastic website, and I'll put a link down to that and the Eggington Group below the video. I'll put down as well some stories and anything that I talk about during this video. So let's have a look at some of the pictures then. So we've got the new master cutler, Philip Rodrigo, cutting ribbons here to some of the workshops and things like that. One that I really loved to see was Stan Shaw's wife next to his sculpture. I've read books about Stan Shaw, and he talks about Kelham Island Museum having no craftsmen left in the place. So I think Stan Shaw would be absolutely overjoyed, and especially Stephen, because I think Stephen's father knew Stan Shaw quite well. I've sort of listened to interviews of Stephen Cocker talking about growing up around people like Stan Shaw, and being in his workshop, talking to him whilst he works on things, So I think Stan Shaw will be absolutely overjoyed of this and what's going on. I really do. So this part actually really fascinates me, and I did a lot of research on it. So from the beginning of Kelham Island Museum, I think the people always envisioned it to be a working museum. So you can go here and see Sheffield craftspeople in their element of doing these things, ask them questions and watch the process take place. And it's fascinating. And the three originals that they had for this were Roland Swindon, which was a grinder, George Watts, who was a forger, and originally it was going to be Fred James, who was a knife maker. Now Fred James was coming to his retirement age and never really got to take place in this project. When the project came into fruition, he was retired, so Graham Clayton took his place. So the three that they had there were Roland Swindon, George Watts and Graham Clayton. They all worked shoulder to shoulder in some places before they got to Kelham Island Museum. So they all knew one another, and I just love this idea of these three that were all knocking about together and knew one another, all working. So it was a win-win, essentially, win-win all round. And again, so obviously Graham Clayton had that workshop, then it was Stan Shaw. I don't know if there was a little bit of an overlap there, and then now it's Stephen Cocker and his team. So it really has had some fantastic people in that workshop. So we'll talk about Roland Swindon, who was a grinder. So being a full-time grinder and the grinder profession in Sheffield was a massive thing, and there's a lot of brilliant videos out there, and I'll probably link a few in the videos in this video. But a fascinating profession, and it did. I think on Roland Swindon, one of his interviews, it said it took about 7 years, and it's a fascinating thing. So the grinding in general, and that's like finishing and all sorts of stuff. But I think they used to use sandstone back in the day, and it's just a fascinating thing. Some of the grinding stones used to break when they were inferior quality. I've watched videos, and I'm talking about the modern stones that they have now. But yeah, Roland Swindon was the grinder for Kelham Island Museum. In fact, I did a video not that long ago on a guy called Robin Wood, he makes axes, he does woodwork, fascinating bloke. He's almost like Sheffield royalty. And he has he has a website, and he does a brilliant article on Brian Alcock, who was the last, unfortunately passed away now, but he was the last full-time grinder in Sheffield. But Robin Wood actually took on an apprentice, and he sent the apprentice to spend time with Brian Alcock, and thankfully before he passed away, so he had a good time to learn from Brian Alcock. I think his brother Matt also was a grinder. I don't know if it was his brother or a relative anyway. They worked side by side together. So like I say, there's a lot of videos out on YouTube, historic ones of grinders and the importance and the profession that it had in Sheffield. And then the other brilliant person was a guy called George Watts. So unfortunately passed away in the 80s, but a forger. And sometimes if you get an old knife and it's got hand forged, that's what that means. And it's a dead trade really, but a fantastic guy. Some YouTube videos out there. A fascinating guy. If you want to research him even more, check Name on a Knife Blade website. There's a big article on him there. Stan Shaw used to speak very fondly of him, and a few of his articles and things. It just brilliant craftspeople in one place, all rubbing shoulders. I was so fascinated with that side of it, and Kelham Island Museum. So let's talk about Graham Clayton. There's a lot to talk about, and it's a bit of a sore point for me, I'll be honest with you, because I missed out on a Graham Clayton knife this year, and it's the most dramatic story ever. It's for a knife lover anyway. So what essentially, it was an online auction. I just was interested in this one lot. By the time you have to sit through a lot of other lots that you're probably not so interested in, then eventually it comes around, you're very excited, and then the thing, my internet decided to drop out right at that critical point, and then by the time I ran round and sorted it out, got another device to do it on, it was sold. And not only that, sold for a value that I would have exceeded a lot by. So absolutely heartbroken I was. But he's a fantastic cutler, and the first resident cutler of Kelham Island Museum. And if you know Graham's work, you'll see that he has a few stamps, one being Digby, which was a Sheffield chap that went to live in America to sell knives and used to get Graham to make his knives. And then on the stamp you'll also see Kelham Island. Obviously it was produced at Kelham Island. And the brilliant Frank Fighting Rooster. So the Frank Buster knives, some are made in Sheffield, and they were done by Graham Clayton. And then he also has this tang stamp, Corsell, I think is the right pronunciation. So yeah, if you're ever on the hunt and you see any of them, grab them, snap them up, and I will give you good money. But Graham Clayton was a brilliant cutler, and one yet I still need to get in the collection. Right, so unfortunately they were broken into in 2023, Kelham Island. They lost some irreplaceable pieces. They really did. So I want to show you three. I'll show you this absolutely fantastic 104 bladed exhibition knife from the 1800s. And then there was a Stan Shaw knife. Just a fantastic, well, a couple of Stan Shaw knives, I think it was. And then the Stephen Cocker exhibition knife that he has now replaced by making another one. So absolutely disgusting, really, that somebody would steal that and deprive us all from viewing these brilliant pieces.
So, thank you for watching this one. I've really enjoyed doing it. I'm sorry that I feel like I've been away from YouTube again, but videos like this do take a bit of time. I do a bit of research on them. I've also been doing research on Stan Shaw in the background of this. I'm currently holding a baby as we speak. As always, my time is very limited, but I love this channel. I'm never going anywhere, so always like and subscribe. I've not forgot about a lot of videos that I need to do, sort of Cooper Cutlery video, hopefully coming out eventually. I've still got Ian Rankin's collection video to do that I've not forgotten about. I still want to do sort of a few Zollingham videos all back to back. But I wanted to brush on exhibition knives, and I also wanted to talk, now I'm always talking about this podcast. It's the Catch Bit podcast done by Mike Moran and Neil Punchard. To me, it's the best traditional cutlery podcast in the world. I absolutely love it, and Stephen Cocker was on it again. So this is almost like old news now, what we're talking about. But I thought it was such a historical thing that's happening, that sort of craftsmen are returning to Kelham Island Museum. And also, it's a good reflection of the time. So back when Graham Clayton and people like that was there, it was probably their safe place in an industry that was dying. And now I almost feel like that it's getting a lot more healthier. There's some fantastic companies out there. I'm filled with sort of pride, not just from a UK point of view, but from a traditional cutlery point of view. But yeah, so I wanted to talk about exhibition knives. I just wanted to brush on something else, because I watched Stephen Cocker while I was on the Catch Bit show talking about this topic. And Durham Duplex actually owned Wade and Butcher, which I didn't realise at the time until watching that. So this was a recent find that this week. £18 I paid for this. It's a multi-tool. We've got two blades there. Unfortunately, I've got a baby in my hands. I can't actually pull the blades out. And I'm trying to get this done before I start my night shift. So a bit of a human level. But look at this amazing knife. Now, this is in my box of sort of spares and repairs, or ones that need work on, because it has got a broken blade. But I've done shorts on both of these. Again, I've got loads of shorts, and when I'm away from YouTube, I never know whether to post them. But because some of them are relating to videos, I always think timing and putting them out. My partner's just come and took the baby off my hands now, so I've got a free hand, but needs a bit of a tidy up on the blade here. But this pen blade, and it's lovely and snappy. So yeah, so Durham Duplex owned Wade and Butcher, and they were a fantastic brand. This is one that I picked up this weekend just past, and this is one that I had a little while, but look at that. So maybe something we can talk about in the future if they maybe produce them. I'm just speculating there. That's nothing concrete, but it'd be great to see maybe some Wade and Butcher knives in the future. Who knows? So also on that podcast, Stephen talks about them are taking on a new guy. So again, that's the future part of it, and I can't express how positive and brilliant I feel about the cutlery going forward. I really do. And we've all had a massive part to play in it. Anybody that buys Sheffield knives and promotes them and things like that. So it's amazing to see. It really is. But yeah, exhibition knives. So let's talk about exhibition knives. So if you're going to see an exhibition knife, you're going to probably see it at Kelham Island Museum. Now, I have bought three I would class as exhibition knives. One's a 10-bladed Congress knife in mother of pearl. I have one in sort of a turtle shell sort of style, and a mother of pearl one that's got the most amazing filed and detailed backspring. But that'll be something for later videos. And I'll tease you with them now, but there's a lot of brilliant exhibition books out there. It was a very prominent thing in Sheffield. Like I say, people like Stephen Cocker and a lot of the cutlers, I think, have a little play at making Sheffield exhibition knives. So I've seen a few on Instagram. If you look back on some of the cutlers really far back on their pictures on Instagram, you'll see almost, these amazing knives. It's them showing off essentially, and I love it, and it's brilliant to see. But historically, it was done a lot in the past. There's absolutely loads of them knocking about. I've seen a few go up for auction, sort of Stan Shaw ones recently, and it's just a fantastic thing to do. Right, I've just seen the time. I don't want this to be too long. This was a bit of an add-on. I've actually started editing the original video, so thanks all for watching. I hope you enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed making it. So that's what I really did enjoy this one. So please hit the like button and subscribe, and hit that bell for future releases and notifications. And I will see you on the next one. Cheers.